change is possible. Welcome to the 5th episode of the We Care Virtual Talk with Alice. On this episode, RABSON BANDA shares his experience as one who recovered from alcohol-induced mental disorder and is now the founder of Elevated Initiatives. Enjoy! Hi RABSON, how are you doing?
I'm very super excited. How have you been?
I've been okay. Good to see you after a long time. Well, still virtually, but at least even just interacting.
Oh, thank you very much. I've been seeing your great works that you've been doing. So much amazing.
Thank you. So welcome to the show, and I'm excited to learn from you, to listen to your story. I know you're very open about your life and great job that you're doing out there. Please, for the audience, briefly introduce yourself and then we get into the questions.
Well, thank you very much. I'm super excited and honored to be here. It is an opportunity that I don't take so lightly. So my name is RABSON BANDA, and I'm the founder of Elevated Initiative, which is ideally a social enterprise that equips the young people with mental fitness, or let me call them positive intelligence skills, and also business management skills. I'm also a lived experience of alcohol-induced alcoholic disorder. Sure.
Wow, that's quite an introduction, and I love that you call your organization Elevated Initiatives. I think it aligns well with the person that you are and the works that you're doing, and congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, Alisa. I'm very much grateful.
I'll go straight to the first question that I have for you. I would like to understand, where did the passion for mental health come from?
Oh wow, thank you very much. Ideally, I'm a person. I've a lived experience of alcohol disorder, and after being a person of recovery, and while I was going through treatment, I realized that of course many of the places that speaks to hosting or service or providing service to people with mental health conditions are already stigmatized. And I also noticed that of course there are few organizations, let me say institutions, that provide services that speak to people with mental health conditions. And going through that journey, I realized of course in coming out in a person that I've now been able to building capacity within himself, and then I've been able to really just be intentional about the thing that I do. I realize of course even me, I'm a success story. It's like I'm a pilot project of transformation, and I realize of course my story will be relevant to other people that are currently going through treatment, and also just to eliminate the element of stigma, because many people have never seen someone who has been through that journey and then they've been able to recover and just be in a place where people understand that of course recovery it's possible. And that's why I told myself that of course I'm going to find myself in two spaces that speaks to youth development, positive youth development.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. That's quite a powerful story that you have, and I'm happy that you're actually sharing it with the world. I can't say enough, but you are doing amazing. I follow your social media and I've seen the works that you're doing, and really it speaks volumes, and I hope that your intentions will be seen by more people and that you can have that support. Now, I'm interested, something that you pointed out, that you are a testament to having recovered. How long ago was this, and where did it start from? Maybe you could share that with us.
I think when I completed my grade 12, that was somewhere in 2011. Mm-hmm. And growing up, I've always wanted to be in the security service of our country. Being a soldier has always been, it was my career back in the days. So when I was growing up, I was like, no, I want to become a soldier. So even when I completed my grade 12 in 2011, the first thing that I did was to come to Lusaka, because by 2012 there were some recruitment. So I came here to Lusaka and with a one goal for recruitment. So I prepared myself, strongly in making sure that of course when that training comes, at least I should be able to meet up all the criteria that they basically look for. So the advert came out and I submitted my application, then my name came out, and I was even one of the people that was selected. And out of 250, I came out number 20. And I was selected, and everything just started going so well, such that we even came to know each other as recruitees, and when time came for us to go to Menasoko, we were in a bus, we were even making noise, singing all those army songs, we are just super excited. Of course, we are getting what we are basically looking for. So we arrived at Menasoko, and of course, there were other young people that we found there with bags. So when they called out the names, me and some of our friends, our name were not called, but some of the young people that were not part of that training, we realized that of course their names were called out.
Wow.
And one of the major, I remember his name was Major Manza, if I'm not mistaken. Then he came to us and he told us that, brothers, are you able to try next time?
Wow.
And I remember it was at that point that I thought I did not hear what he said, but he said, "Are you able to try next time?" I had like, this is not your time.
Wow.
And in that moment, I lost energy because I did not know what to do. I did not know who to call. I did not know what would be the second step for me to take from there.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I got disappointed with myself, and I just got disappointed because I ran out of words. I know people say that men don't cry, but I remember back on that day.
Yeah.
At that moment, just something really happened to me.
Which is okay, because
And
that was quite an experience for you. Yeah.
And I started going back. I don't even want to jump on a public bus. I just wanted to walk, and I walked out, just recognizing myself. Yeah, what is this thing that is really happening? Because by that time, I already been told, my girlfriend that of course I'm going. So what is that I'm going to do at that particular moment? Yeah, I just reach home, or just to sleep, not want to talk to anybody. Yeah. Some people that came, because even everyone I met, because people knew in my community that this was something that I was really,
very passionate about. Yeah.
They were asking me what type of passionate about. So whenever they see me, they'll ask, haven't you gone? And those questions just used to irritate me. And but at that particular moment, I thought, alcohol, was something that would take away the pain and issues like that. Maybe it was a good coping strategy. But little did I know that I was just taking myself into a ditch. And I remember, in that moment where it was just too much, so that I couldn't really contain it. And I experienced, a breakdown. I just started misbehaving. In other ways, I just started hallucinating because the toxin was too much in my body.
And how long did that take?
So that moment took about 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks of just taking myself out of the way. And I was there now admitted to the hospital. That's a psychiatric hospital. And I remember very vividly, that was the time I saw my dad crying. That was the time I saw my sisters and my mother crying, because I'm the first born where I come from, and I saw them crying. Because I wasn't in control of what was really happening at that particular moment. But when I started going for therapy at the hospital, because I was then now taken to trauma, that's where all these things started happening.
Wow.
And so I was taken to the hospital. I came out of the hospital. Then of course I started receiving this stigma from my friends. They could talk about my story. They could talk about all sorts of things that just to help me.
I want to understand something. When you are going for the training, did you used to drink, or it was controlled drinking, or did you start to drink after the disappointing news?
Yeah. So before the training, I've never been a person that used to drink back in the days. To be honest with you, I never used to. Even when I was preparing for training, I was the person that used to drink. I never used to drink. So the drinking came in after the rejection. So after the rejection, I got frustrated. I couldn't put my thoughts in one place, and all I started doing was now drinking. So I was just drinking out of frustration back then. I reacted rather than responded. Yeah, in the state of, so it happened because what happened was, after 1 month I wasn't drinking. Then 2 weeks I started drinking, and in that shortest period of time, in that 2 weeks, that's where now I experienced this whole thing where I just became unaware. I just experienced a breakdown because I was drinking alcohol, and then on the other side I was also smoking. So that was the duration. That was the period in which all the aspects of the breakdown really happened.
Now it's interesting that you mentioned.
So
It's interesting that you mentioned that it was the first time you saw your family actually broken with you because of what you are also experiencing, which is also attached to my next question. I wanted to find out what role has your family and friends played in helping you navigate the process, or how did they help you through that process? Did you face stigma from them? And you mentioned an element of stigma from friends. How about the family? How was the response?
yeah, to be honest with you, I should say I'm a product of the love of my family and friends. I don't know, at the end of the day, one thing that we have to be honest is the fact that our families are not trained. Many of our family members are not trained with the skills on how to handle a person with the situation that I was going through.
Okay.
So even when I knew myself that of course what I was feeling and how I'm feeling now is different, for them that wasn't the case.
Okay. Okay.
You see? And I remember when I told my dad that I want to come to Lusaka, he couldn't really allow me because he was thinking I'm not really okay. Not until there was an order, there was an agreement, like a reference from the doctor that of course this person now is good to stand by himself. That's when now he was able to, that's when now he was free now to say, okay, yeah, I can release you to go back to Lusaka. So that was really but on the other end, I've received a lot of support from my family and also from my friends, because they stood there for me. They could ask me, how are you doing? They also really exposed me to different type of things, and just to call me and stand by my side and say, oh, it's been put through this.
How important was that for you to actually see that people who are not feeling the same way that you're feeling are able to stand by you, to be with you through that process?
That thing became important to me because and I started asking, what is it that these people are seeing in me which I'm not seeing? And when I went for a review before leaving for trauma, the doctor told me to say, RABSON, he gave me a book which is The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Powell. And I was through reading that book, I found so many principles. One of the things that I found was a verse which is the book of Philippians 4 verse 14. It says, I can do all things through the Lord Jesus Christ who strengthens me. And that verse really gave me hope to realize that, of course, if I'm to make the life that I want to make, it was at that point that now I started carrying myself. And there's a certain way that I started looking at myself. I know people would go in spaces, people would think, is RABSON just going to beat us here? But I could feel that energy. That there's a way I just started conducting myself. I started setting goals. I started really developing myself. I started watching what I was eating. I started becoming aware of who my friends was. And that's really gave me the strength, to realize that there's something to live for, rather than just really focusing on something that did not work out back in the past. And I remember I said one day, and I asked myself, this thing did not work out, but what is it that I've learned from this type of a situation? And that's what now gave me the capacity, the zeal to realize, of course, RABSON, there's something that you can do as long as you are able to just, be intentional and be aware. Challenges are going to come, but at the end of the day is, are you going to react or are you going to respond? And I realized that back in the days, what I did was to react rather than responding. And it was because of the tools that I started getting from friends, that I started getting from family. I remember my sister gave me a Bible, and I was reading it, and I came across another verse which says, do not be conformed to this world, but yet be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then those things started speaking to me. How do I continuously expose myself to an element of renewing my mind?
You're preaching, RABSON. You're preaching to the choir. You're definitely preaching. I love that. And it's quite amazing. I think even just when you talk about transformation, I can tell you for a fact, because I haven't seen you in a long time, I can tell you for a fact that the RABSON I met then is very different from the RABSON I'm actually talking to right now. And it's quite a very positive transformation. I'm very happy. I wish I could express how I'm feeling on the inside, because I remember our interaction from the first time we met. So this is really, really great. So that transformation you're talking about, it's still happening for you. That's definite.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very much for being a mirror to some of the things that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the day that we met. That was somewhere by Mulungushi National
Yes.
Conference Center. Yeah, and the rest is actually history.
Yeah.
But it came from a point of, you know, even when we met that place, I was in a at that place I was in a position of what is it that, you know, I was in a position of, okay, who is doing something that that curiosity. So
Yeah.
whenever I meet, I was intentional to learn about what is it that you are doing, how do you do it, you know, and that's how we later met.
So this actually brings me to the next question that I have for you, which actually says, from the first time we met and interacted, you seemed very passionate about mental health projects and conversations. What have you done to help the community and the people who might relate to your experience?
All right. Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And that's really defined, I think that's really defined where my purpose comes from. Yeah, so what I did was, under Elevated Initiative, we've come up with programs that speak to building capacity among the young people, and let me say also the youths, with one aspect, which is helping them with employability and also entrepreneur, or let me say business management skills. Because one thing that I went through was because I was looking for a job. So I realized that, of course, what is making many young people to find themselves in illicit activities is as a result of them not finding decent jobs. So under that program, what we do, we train the young people with business management skills so that they're able to overcome financial stress. Then from the other end, we have programs that are centered around, we have coaching programs that are centered around helping them to just turn adversity into a challenge. So now for you to turn adversity into a challenge, there are certain skills that you need. So under the mentorship and coaching program that we have, which we use a model of positive intelligence skills. So we teach the young people with skills on how to become mentally fit. So because one thing that we've come to realize is that there is an operating system that you can download in your brain that gives you the capacity to respond to situations rather than you always reacting to situations. Because it is out of reacting to situations that, of course, we find ourselves in a dilemma.
That's powerful.
So how do you look at rejection? So we also coach the young people on rejection, rejection management. How do you manage rejection? Because many people right now are talking about 1.6 trillion US dollar is a productivity cost because of mental health. And then you realize, of course, many of these people, it's a result of them not giving them a position that they are looking for because they did not handle a certain type of rejection. So they have to become mentally fit for them to make sure that, of course, at the end of the day, they are able to navigate this type of situation. So we've got programs that are centered around helping the young people to become mentally fit through using the positive intelligence system.
That's amazing. And it actually reminds me of something that I shared just a few days ago on my socials. And I was talking about the fear of the unknown and the staying power. And my view of that is that, especially when you're trying to do something, especially something new, there's this fear of the unknown. You don't know which way things will go. And I used to think starting something is hard, but actually doing something is harder than starting it. And this is where what you're saying actually comes in. How do you handle when you've started that process and now there's the rejection, there's things not going your way? You need to harness that staying power. You need to have a certain power to stay within your passion, to keep moving and to keep pushing in the direction that you envisioned from the get-go. And it's amazing that the system that you've created has that component, has that element where you're encouraging young people and just people in general to handle failure or the actual fear of failing or just challenges that they face. Because life happens, just like you shared with us in your situation. Life happened for you. You were prepared to be this person, and then a situation completely changed your trajectory in your life. And now, how do you respond to that? So I'm happy that you're actually teaching people to be proactive rather than reactive, because I think we face a lot of that. People wait until things become so severe, they're unable to handle it themselves, and then they take that step maybe to seek help. I mean, it's never too late to start, but it's also always great to start early when you notice that there's something that you are unable to handle, get some help from family and friends. And I appreciate that you are doing that for the community. That's really something to really be proud of. Yeah. So my for this conversation, my last question for you is, do you think people have enough information of the dangers of addictions? And what would you like to see different in the current times where access to substances and other vices are very high and common among young people and young men?
Oh wow! I think for me, with my observation, one thing that I've realized is that people understand and people know that addiction comes with its own negative stages. But the question that has been is, how do they come out of addiction? I'll give you an example. Many of the people that I've interacted with the research that I've done, is that they want to stop, maybe let me say alcohol, maybe they want to stop smoking. But one thing that really comes in as a challenge is, okay, if they stop smoking or if they stop drinking, what is that going to start doing? So from the research that I've done, I realized that, of course, many people have got information on the dangers of addiction, but they don't have the information on how to champion or how to come out of addiction. So I believe one thing that we really have to focus so much on, and that's why you hear me and no longer talk about mental health, I talk about mental fitness, because fitness will talk about, will focus so much on the strategies, or let me say the tools. So I believe one thing that we really have to focus so much on right now is, how do we expose people to the tools or strategic tools that will help them to come out of the condition they are in. And once we help them with the tools, I believe the rates or the cases of addiction will reduce. Because if I tell you to say, don't think of a red car, what comes in your mind?
The red
It's
car.
a red car.
Yeah.
So we are telling people to stop smoking. We are telling people to stop drinking. Okay, why don't we tell people about the things that they should do? Because trust me, many people that tell to stop smoking, they don't stop, but they will continue. So I think we really have to expose people with the strategic tools that will help them to navigate, that will help them to discover themselves, to develop themselves in such a way we'll be able to attain our economic transformation of the community that we serve in. I think that's one thing that I can really highlight.
That's really nice. That's really nice, and I love that angle that you've also taken. It also reminds me of how I speak on mental health. I attach it to my art, and that's where the tool, providing a tool such as art therapy comes in, so that we're not just talking about we're not just talking about what mental health does or what mental health is, but we're also providing something that is feasible, something that is relatable, and something that someone can actually incorporate in their daily life. So I completely agree with you. Now, the way from that response, I'm supposed to ask you the final question. I know I said it was the last question, but this is the final question that I have for you. Yeah. So my final question for you is, as someone who has changed their life, and in a courageous manner, I must state, could you share more insight on the daily reminders of your past and how you have chosen to keep the fight going?
Okay. Yeah, one thing that I can really say is there are so many things that come that reminds me of old days, and I've reframed the way I look at those things. So when I'm looking at a soldier, back in the days, what will come in my mind is failure, okay? But when I look at a soldier nowadays, what comes in my mind is strength, resiliency, positivity, and freedom, together with the passion for service. So when I look at it now, my question that comes in is, okay, am I doing that with the kind of a person I am today? And my answer is, oh yes, there are certain things that I'm doing that speaks to helping me develop resilience, to helping me be of service to humanity, to helping me, create freedom. Attachment that now I look at those things. So it is really my perception that I attach to what I went through. And I really thank that, of course, I went through that kind of a situation, because it gives me power and capacity to do certain things that I don't think I would have done if I was to go for the army.
And I was going to say that, so I'm glad you said it yourself. I was actually going to say the last part, the same thing that you just pointed out, to say, I feel like we would not be having this important conversation right now had your life panned out the way you had planned it. And I think it's safe to verify that our plans are not God's plans, and God's timing is always the best. And the plan that He has is always bigger than the plan that we envision for ourselves. RABSON, I can't thank you enough. I really, really, really appreciate this conversation. You have no idea just how much I am happy to have this conversation with you. And it's also just stemming from the history I have shared with you in the few years. So I'm actually excited to see what more you do with your life from this point going forward. And just to encourage you, keep moving, keep pushing, keep on with the same passion and just the way you're doing everything. It's quite inspiring. I'm always inspired when I read your posts. I just needed to say that to you so that you're aware that there's people who are really supporting your moves and your cause. So thank you so much for agreeing to be on this platform with me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're always welcome. Every time I see you just your presence, reminds me or challenges me to really, it's like you become an accountability partner with the elements of the things that I always share with you. And you keep me on track, to be honest with you. Yeah, and I'm very much grateful. I'm very much grateful. I don't take it so lightly.
Thank you for that, RABSON. And I hope we get to talk more. And I don't know when we will have that conversation, but thank you.
If you loved this conversation, do let me know. Thank you so much for listening in and for watching. Until next time on the We Care Virtue Talk with Alice.